Good afternoon. It's Friday, May 1st, and you're watching another episode of Michael Badaway Live. I'm your host, Michael Badaway. Let's get right to the news. Nice day here in southern Ontario, Canada's southern coast, sitting at about 15 degrees Celsius for those of you joining us from around the globe. 15 degrees, pretty good for springtime here in Canada. Not the best, but we're getting there. We're going to get to nice balmy temperatures soon enough. It'll be too hot. Let's look at some COVID numbers here around the globe. We'll start with our world update, where we've got 33,971,000 people infected with COVID-19. Oh, that is absolutely wrong. 3 million. That's right. 3 million people. 3,397,103 people infected with COVID-19 around the globe as of this moment. And of those people, 239,000 have passed away. That is a global death rate of 18%. So not so good. 1 in 5 chance that you're going to die of COVID-19. Oh, as we say, the virus. There's no more COVID-19. We're just calling it the virus. The U.S. is leading the pack with 1.1 million cases, ripping the Band-Aid off, as it were. 65,000 of our U.S. cousins have passed away thus far. Here in Canada, we've got 55,000 people infected. Of us, 3,391 have passed. In Australia, they're still doing quite well, 6,767 infected, with only 93 deaths, still under the 100 death mark. Thank you, Australia, for showing the world the way. Egypt, 5,895 deaths, 5,895 cases in Egypt, 406 deaths at the global center. Here in Ontario, we are sitting at 16,000. Apparently, I can't speak today. Here in Ontario, we are sitting at 16,608 cases with 1,121 deaths. My word. I tell you, it could be worse, right? It could be worse. But it could be better. You see, they said that if we hit 1,000 deaths by the end of April here in Ontario, we would be in a worst case scenario trajectory. Well, we hit those 1,000 deaths as of, about yesterday. So now we've got 1,100 deaths. Here it is, May 1st. And everybody's talking about going back to work, going back to stuff, and everything's going to get back to normal. La-di-di-di-di. How is that we're not on a worst case trajectory if last month you said if we had 1,000 deaths in Ontario, by this time we would be on a worst case trajectory? I'm just curious, what is the truth? Nevertheless, I don't think anybody really knows any of the answers at this point in time. What I do know is that people are getting a little bit ticked off. They're not enjoying their forced solitude any longer, at least not to my knowledge. I was speaking to a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, Christina, in Toronto, and Christina tells me she goes for a daily walk to the park. And this is part of her way of keeping herself sane during this time of crisis. Well, Christina was going for her walk in the park, I believe the day before yesterday, and she stopped at a bench to take a little rest, and she got a ticket for $880. This is somebody I actually know. She wasn't with anybody. She wasn't talking to anyone. She wasn't associating with anyone. She was by herself, socially distancing, exercising, taking a little break. It costs you $880 now to go to the park. And there have been upwards of 5,000. So what world do we live in where you're not allowed to go to the park? And you can call your neighbors and tell on them for going to the park. I don't want to live in such a world. That's nonsense. This is garbage. A lot of talk about conspiracies about this virus and whatnot. But control is control. And there's one thing about being safe, and there's another thing about breaking people's backs with $880 tickets for nothing. A novel came out in 1981, written by the author Dean Koontz, and it was called The Eyes of Darkness. In this novel, it speaks about a virus that will hit the world in 2020 called the Wuhan flu. Now, other details were wrong in the novel, such as how many were deceased and whatnot. But isn't that interesting? In the 1981 novel, Eyes of Darkness, Dean Koontz was able to tell us that in 2020, the Wuhan flu would hit. Whether or not the rest of the details are right or wrong, that's a fascinating coincidence. You're no longer allowed to go to the park. You're no longer allowed to gather in numbers above 5. What about those massive, massive protests that we had across Canada just before this all broke out? Everybody went home. Everybody begged to go home. What a coincidence. What about the protests in Hong Kong? Everywhere. They're gone. Think for yourself. But maybe you're like, well, somebody shouldn't have gone to the park to get an $880 ticket. Fine. Wait till you get yours. I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of sitting at home and waiting. I'm sick and tired of all of this. I'm sick and tired of not knowing what to believe because we've been lied to so often. I'm Michael Badaway, encouraging you to think for yourself, make your own decisions, and don't do anything that I wouldn't do. Good night.